So basically playing Watch Dogs Legion is like... And that's just dandy. Yes, my fellow failures, today I'm looking at Watch Dogs Legion, an open-world sandbox that's the third game in the Watch Dogs franchise that takes place in jolly old London town. Don't it, you fucking plonker? And in my opinion, Watch Dogs Legion might just be the most English video game ever made. Not just because it's packed with English culture, but because, just like England, it's a gigantic hot mess that feels like it barely functions at all. I'm just kidding. Really, I see this game as incredibly flawed, but still entertaining in its own right. Like, it has a few main things that it does really well, and everything else ranges from meh to... So the game takes place after a bunch of massive bomb attacks have gone off all over London, and the city's been taken over by a militant company called Albion. So it's up to a hacker group called DedSec to do what Ubisoft loves and liberate some fucking districts, baby, yeah? Reveal all that shit on the map that I don't care about, yeah? But the thing that sets Watch Dogs Legion apart from your standard Ubisoft hoedown is the fact that you can play as absolutely anyone you like. Fucking Barry, Gary, Harry, Barbara, Big Barbara, Little Barbara, Old Barbara, if you're into that sort of thing, you dirty cunt. You start out picking from a random selection of gamers, and once you begin, you can recruit literally anybody you come across in the game, and everybody has different special abilities, weapons, or quirks. And for me, this mechanic is literally what carries the entire game. I just adore being able to play as any NPC I fancy. Like, I see a busker on the street, I like his cover of Hot and Cold by Alvin and the Chipmunks, I talk to him, do a little mission for him, and now I am him. It's really cool. Plus, the different things the NPCs can have make them so much more interesting. Like, you could find a protester who can rally people around her, or a doctor who can use her uniform to get to restricted places, or a construction worker who can take his sweet fucking time, apparently. I just think this is such an interesting idea to base a game around, and for the most part, I think they pulled it off very well. The actual gameplay is basically what you'd expect from a Watch Dogs game, a good mix of stealth, gunfights, robot hijinks, and that weird connect the lines minigame that's totally what hacking is like in real life, guys, I swear. And it all works pretty well, the driving is satisfying, the combat is simple but fun, and even though it can feel repetitive at times, it's definitely passable and services the more interesting aspects of the game just fine. And like I said, there are some elements of the game that I really enjoyed. Like, the soundtrack is great, the mini-games are fun, and I gotta say, this recreation of modern London is absolutely fantastic. I mean, I used to live there as a kid and still visit it sometimes, and take it from me, they captured its whole vibe really, really well. Minus the racist cabbies and pregnant teenagers, of course. So I really do think there's quite a bit to admire about Watch Dogs Legion. But you guys already know I'm building up to talk about all the other stuff that I don't like, so let's just do this. What the fuck is that? For starters, even though I like the premise from a gameplay point of view, the actual story is pretty generic. The writing is bland, the bad guys are basic, and ironically, the problem with playing as a random group of NPCs is that it's hard to get invested in any one of them. Especially when, despite their different traits, they all say basically the same things, just with different styles. Like, the handler will say, "You gotta hack this thing," and the posh girl will say, "Oh, don't worry, I'll hack it right away," and the Cockney guy will say, "Yeah, I'll hack it right now, you cheeky geezer," and the Jamaican guy will say, "Hey, ma." Not to mention, the AI is fucking busted. You've already seen some of the more silly stuff, but on top of that, the NPCs are so incompetent they sometimes can't even see a guy getting taken down right in front of him. My guy, get some spec savers! In fact, the whole game is pretty bugged on a technical level. The shadows like to dance around, the frame rate is wildly inconsistent, and weirdly some of the voice lines are totally scrambled.
Unless you'd like to explain to your new, heavily armed, privatized police force why you've broken into the station.
Okay, yeah.
Plus, quite a few of the missions reuse locations, the upgrades you can get aren't all that interesting, this entire bit in total darkness can pluck my arsehole, and of course it wouldn't be a modern Ubisoft game if it wasn't absolutely packed with microtransactions. Not just cosmetic either, but shit that actively affects the game, like better characters and in-game currency. And because I feel like this is all becoming way too normalized, let me just say that any game that lets you pay to make it easier is by definition a poorly balanced game. And yes, you don't have to buy anything, but I also don't have to send Ubisoft pillowcases of my semen every month, but I still do it, don't I? Okay, maybe I'm being too harsh about all this, and like I said, there's plenty about Watch Dogs Legion that I really like. The multiple protagonists thing is really cool, the game's version of London is great, this furry busker guy is amazing, you keep going baby, live your best life. And seriously, getting to play as anybody you want really did carry the whole game for me, and I liked it so much I even started a new game after I was done, just to see what other characters I could get. But then again, the story really isn't interesting enough for a second playthrough, the technical issues make the whole thing seem rushed, and I take it back about the furry busker now, I hope he rots in hell! Look, at the end of the day, Watch Dogs Legion is kind of a clusterfuck, but it's a clusterfuck with enough good ideas and dumb fun to keep me entertained whilst only on the teeniest amounts of ketamine. Is it worth a buy? Well, if you're a Brit like me, it might just be worth it to hear Ubisoft hilariously misuse words we haven't said since Thatcher, but if not, I guess it kinda depends on what you're willing to forgive. I mean, who knows, maybe they'll patch out the technical problems, maybe it'll be better on the next-gen consoles, and maybe I'll even think of a good way to end this video. Yeah, just give me a sec, I can think of something, oh, I got it!